Hello everyone, I'm Luan Ismail from the Graeme Clark Institute for Biomedical Engineering. When you think medical technologies in Australia, you think Cochlear, you think ResMed, and they are great Australian success stories. And we have some incredible biomedical engineering schools in the country, and it's the hope of governments and universities and the community that people trained in those institutions will hopefully go on and develop, create companies based on innovation that grow exports and provide us with a high standard of living. So today we're going to look at a program at the University of Melbourne that actually tries to do that from its inception, attracting talented engineers and those who have a view to contribute to the growth of the sector. So I'm going to bring the founders of that program. We'll also speak to a number of alumni and get their perspective on what the program has meant for them. And then hopefully we will have a better understanding of how, in this case, the University of Melbourne is doing something very creative and having impact, which is, I think, what we all want to see. Let me bring in the two of the founders of the program, Professor David Braden and Associate Professor Quang Lim from the University of Melbourne. David and Quang, thank you for joining us. There have been a number of initiatives in the past to encourage the transfer of know-how from engineering schools into startups and enterprises. They haven't always been successful. What was the inspiration or the unmet need that you saw that was the inspiration rather for starting this BioDesign Innovation Program?
Yeah, thanks, Luan. And so I think that one of the key things that we recognized in looking at the way the university teaches is that we were teaching a lot of skills to our students and teaching them how to develop, concepts around medical technologies. Quang can probably talk a bit about how the business school approaches things as well. But one of the key things that differentiates the BioDesign Innovation Program, which was conceived originally at Stanford University, is that the program focuses first on sourcing what are the real unmet needs that exist in medicine that could perhaps be addressed through medical technologies. So it's a real opportunity for students to actually be embedded within a clinical environment and to see for themselves what are the unmet needs, and then to address those then in the concepts that they would develop through. We've actually got a world premiere of a video that we put together a little while ago, and so I think it would perhaps be good to start with that as a way of sort of introducing the program.
Yes.
The BioDesign Innovation Program aims to train engineering and business students in the complex process of developing solutions to unmet medical needs. Innovation in medtech has special requirements, such as regulations, reimbursement, quality management, ethics, and other aspects.
Unlike other biodesign programs around the world, ours has a strong focus on student engagement with a multidisciplinary focus on both engineering and business. The program is significant because it ensures that needs and solution concepts are tested and that there is likely to be a market for the device.
The BioDesign Innovation Program involves a close integration with hospitals and clinicians. Students in the course learn by doing. They're thrown in the deep end, but they find they can swim. One of the successes of the BioDesign Innovation Program has been the neonatal device company Navi Medical Technologies. They have developed a system that can tell a clinician where a catheter tip is located in a blood vessel.
Close integration with hospitals and clinicians, as well as companies, investors, and accelerators engaging actively within the innovation ecosystem is what makes us a success.
The students emerge confident in their abilities to innovate in medtech. 104 students and 22 teams have now completed the program over 5 years, and 22 prototype devices have been created. More than half of the alumni teams have formed startup companies to commercialize their medical devices. Navi, for example, has raised over $2 million in funding and are conducting a clinical trial of their device. There has been strong interest and engagement from hospitals and the medical device industry with the program. The program has grown from engaging 2 hospitals to 9 hospitals.
The BioDesign Innovation Program exhibits excellent collaboration across multiple disciplines, including engineering, business, medical, and other areas. Excellent learning experiences due to carefully curated content and integrated learning, including active learning, and excellent alumni engagement with multiple alumni contributing as guest speakers, inspiring existing students to know that the path they are pursuing is possible to progress along.
Thank you. That's a very comprehensive overview. David, can I ask you, how did you meet Kwang, and what was that sort of early discussion? How did you come together? And obviously you must have had a sort of shared perspective. You came from different faculties at the university. Can you just share some of the background on how this early discussion developed and how you got the university to support your idea?
Yeah, so that's digging back a bit, isn't it? So the program was originally suggested to me by people who are close contacts with the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, because they had implemented this program based on the Stanford model about a year and a half before it was mentioned to me, and it was already quite successful there. And so one of the key contacts I had was a Professor Dan Galai, who was from Hebrew University, but he was teaching at the Melbourne Business School at the time. And so a good meeting with him and Leon Mann from the University of Melbourne convinced me that this was an excellent program. And so I actually even had the opportunity to visit the Hebrew University of Jerusalem in Israel and see the program firsthand. And then they were happy to share some of their materials and so on. So I pitched the idea of running this to the Melbourne School of Engineering, and there was strong support to do it and to try to even get it implemented immediately. And so then it was an approach to the Melbourne Business School, and Kwang tells me that Dan Galai was actually his next door neighbor at the Melbourne Business School, his office next door. And so I think Kwang was already also sold on the idea. And so Kwang and I hit it off really well, and put together a handbook entry, and sort of lightning speed for the University of Melbourne, we were able to introduce this course. Do you want to add to that, Kwang?
Yeah, I would just say you're absolutely right. The Hebrew University of Jerusalem was a catalyst, and then Galai was a provocateur who brought us together because he was a visiting professor a couple of years before we launched our program, and he had the office next door to mine. We had a really good relationship, lots of good conversations, and I grew very excited about this program. So when the opportunity arose to propose it on our side, the timing was just right, because our MBA students were starting to get very interested in innovation and entrepreneurship and technological change. I was starting to get a lot of requests from students. Not all of our MBAs want to be in medtech, but even if they don't want to be in medtech, just going through a journey like this opens their eyes and opens many doors for them. So I thought this was well worth the opportunity to pursue. And David and I, as he said, just hit it off. And so we ended up having, I believe, a friendship that continues to this day. And then Galai, who sort of brought us together, he continues to be a guest speaker every year as part of our course, this year remotely, but some years he has actually come back.
Kwang, your sort of research expertise is in strategies and organizations, to manage inventors, scientists, and the knowledge they create. So what's been your role in the creation of the program? And how did you bring sort of your knowledge and expertise, to the content, if you like?
I think there are two levels at which I was able to add some value to the program. The first is that I believe that we provide a level of business content that is greater than many other biodesign programs, because I've had the good fortune of teaching in the MBA program for a good number of years. I also run the capstone for the Master of Entrepreneurship and a number of other courses. So I think it's given me a bird's eye view that has allowed me to bring some of those lessons in. Also, we have good relationships with places like the Melbourne Accelerator, where I mentor the teams. And so we're also being able to bring those people into class and to bring the knowledge from active participants in the ecosystem in. So I think those two levels of engagement have allowed us to build a program which is relatively unique. Even though it's born from the same idea as the one in Stanford, what I think we've managed to successfully do is to tailor it to work well in our context and to draw upon the strengths of our ecosystem. So I think we should be honest in saying this is hardly a success driven just by David and me. Rather, we have, I think, been successful because of the fantastic support from the entire ecosystem around us that has come forth and been very generous in supporting our students and our teams. And I think that part, the MBS has been able to help as well in providing that linkage into the business and the entrepreneurial community.
Or David or Kwang, can you tell me, when did the program start, and what was the sort of mix between engineering and sort of MBA students? And at the moment, how many of your colleagues are involved in delivering the program?
Well, perhaps I'll take that first. So we started in 2016, and there were 5 teams in that first year, with roughly equal numbers of MBA and engineering students. We aim for each team to have at least 2 engineering students and 2 MBA students in each team, and I think that creates quite a good balance. And the students learn a lot from each other, as well as learning from us in the course. We've leaned very heavily on this ecosystem, as Kwang mentioned, including people who have expertise in particular aspects of medtech, that Kwang and I could talk about, but not with the level, the depth of experience. So, for instance, in people who have experience in regulations and IP and reimbursement, which is how medical devices tend to be paid for. Those aspects, it's been really good to be able to tap into the ecosystem and bring them in for guest lectures.
I would add that in terms of the colleagues, we have had many of them come in playing different roles. So some of them come in as guest speakers, including people like Chia Yi, who is closely associated with the Graeme Clark Institute. We've had Lachlan, who is heavily involved with university licensing at the University of Melbourne, talk about IP. But we also have many colleagues, including many of David's collaborators within the engineering faculty, as well as people like Glenn Hotker, come in as panelists who then provide feedback during strategic periods or moments when the students have to deliver presentations. And so they come in, they provide a fresh perspective, they provide some suggestions, and that propels the students, hopefully, to then explore even further along. And then we have a variety of friends from the industry, ranging from academics to practitioners who come in to fill in the gaps of knowledge that David mentioned.
I'd like to go to the alumni in a moment, but two final questions about the program. One is, it seems that a critical element is, the ability to uncover this unmet need, and the clinicians play, a very important role in that. It's not a critical role. How did you find them, and what's been the sort of the reaction from the clinicians when you go and say, we're running this program, in a sense, we're here to help you? How have they responded?
Yeah, so my experience is an enormous amount of enthusiasm from clinicians. But then I think, it could be because the ones that I know are mainly ones that are perhaps more entrepreneurial. But I think generally most clinicians, see unmet needs and they have their own ideas about how to approach them. Mm-hmm. So in the first year, it was really just, direct contacts that I had across some different areas of medicine. So actually one of those was Professor Mark Cook, who is now the director of the Graeme Clark Institute. And so he was able to help students who are interested in the field of neurology. And then there was Associate Professor Christiane Theda, who at the Royal Women's Hospital, who had been in contact because she was extremely enthusiastic about engaging more with students. And so she's from neonatal intensive care. And so so it was mainly those sort of contacts. Over the years, I've been able to expand that quite considerably through contacts of contacts, as well as as clinicians even approaching us saying, how can we get involved in this program as it's sort of developing its own reputation. Hence and also students have been excellent in approaching clinicians themselves, even cold calling clinicians within the different areas of medicine in which they're interested. And I think them taking that initiative has also helped us expand the program.
So the students are not necessarily given a list of unmet needs that they have to select from. That's one option. Potentially they can go and discover their own, opportunity, if you like. Is that right?
That's right. We definitely do not try to just deliver them the needs on a plate. We really want them to go and find them themselves. The clinicians, of course, will say, this is something that is really something I'd like you to look at. Mm-hmm. But we encourage them to try, except this year it was more difficult to do it, but to actually find needs through direct observation. Because there are some things that maybe even clinicians themselves don't realize is something that that can be perhaps improved, because they've lived with a way of doing things for a long time, and perhaps new fresh eyes will see that there could be new approaches.
And finally, the duration of the program, how many sort of months or weeks, or what commitment do the students need to make?
It's a 2-semester program, so we start at the end of February and finish around in November. So so there's about a 12-week period of initially team formation, needs finding, and then sort of initial concept development. Then there's the break between semesters where a lot of thinking is usually done, a lot of approaching clinicians, validating needs, validating concepts. And then the second semester is sort of really knuckling down into doing prototyping and developing business models. So the deliverables at the end in the course are a prototype and a business plan. And so it's all geared towards getting that done over roughly a 9-month period.
It is a very big commitment for the students. It's a very heavily loaded subject in engineering for the Master of Engineering students. But for the MBAs, it counts as something like 3 consecutive courses. So the people that sign up tend to be very committed to wanting to do something. It's a very unusual experience because you're signing up for what is possibly the longest MBA course there is on the menu. Right? We have courses ranging from 1 week to 5 weeks to 10 weeks, and this is 9 months. And so you must really want to do it. But I think the result of that is that they get to be on a journey like no other. And they learn to adapt of doing things by doing things that very few other courses can enable them to learn. And I think that magic is in the combination of each team having both engineers and MBAs. So it is the combination of the duration, but also the mix of talent that I think allows the students to achieve quite a lot.
Thank you, Guang and David. Look, let me bring in our 4 alumni. Yep. Elise Sutherland.
Hi.
Martin Thompson.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi.
Edward Beese.
Yes, great to be here, Lewin.
And Alex Newton.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, Alex. What I'd like to do is perhaps just go through each of you and ask you a couple of questions, similar, you don't get the same question, but just for all of us to get a sense of, your experience and what the program is meant to. So perhaps could I start with you first, Edward, if you don't mind, while I've got you on the screen now. Could you tell us a little about yourself and how you became involved in the BioDesign Innovation Program?
It'd be my pleasure. So as I've been introduced, my name's Edward. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Ventora Medical. I graduated from the University of Melbourne with Master of Engineering degree, specializing in biomedical and business in 2018. As part of my final year course, my final year project, I was selected to participate in the BioDesign Innovation cohort. There, as David and Quang have already described, I was able to collaborate with some incredibly talented biomedical engineers and business professionals. And together we went out to discover an unmet need and were successful in finding one in the neonatal intensive care unit. So through that BioDesign innovation process, we managed to create a solution concept within that 9 months, which immediately generated a bit of excitement within our field. And so much like the other panelists with me today, we decided to take that leap of faith and begin a startup almost 2 years ago today. Launching a startup's been a whirlwind experience. We've traveled around the globe before that got shut down. We've met with experts, we've participated in accelerators, we've raised funds, and most importantly, I feel like all those involved have really grown as professionals and individuals by being surrounded by incredible people. Like I said, some of whom I'm joined on the panel today.
So you joined the program. Tell us, how the team formed and how you discovered, this unmet need. What was it that, how did you, what was the kernel that's now become Ventora Medical? How did you come across it?
So the first week or 2 weeks of the BioDesign Innovation course, the teams are formed. We, as a cohort, went out and spent some time together and tried to work out which personalities fit really well, which skill sets fit. And I was quite fortunate with some of my co-founders that I'd worked with in the past throughout my degree and had a really great working relationship with them. So naturally, we were able to come together and then fill out the rest of the team based on what we felt were our individual strengths and being able to create a multidisciplinary team that way. Then, as again, David and Kwang have mentioned, we as an entire collective team went out into multiple fields. So we looked at cardiology, we looked at neonatology, we even looked at ophthalmology. And what we did is we spent many hours observing clinical practice, interviewing clinicians, finding out their day-to-day work lives, as well as things that they struggled with or things that they saw as needs, as well as, again, providing some fresh eyes into these environments and seeing what we could identify as being needs. After identifying some needs, we had a list. We then had to sort of really validate those across institutions. We didn't just want to identify it once and then assume that it was a problem across the field. And we were very fortunate to work with some really amazing clinicians, particularly Associate Professor Christian Theda, who's already been mentioned. And we're able to identify a need in the neonatal intensive care unit to really improve the delivery of non-invasive respiratory support. From that has grown Ventora. We're currently, developing a solution to address that need.
What do you think were some of the most critical, contributions of the program to where you are now? I mean, you've started up, you've raised, I think, $1 million recently. What were some of the key contributions that you think the program has delivered to you and your team?
Yeah, so the program has a huge focus on needs finding. It's quite appropriate that the BioDesign Innovation Program was launched because it was a need to translate research and knowledge out of university. But yeah, that real fundamental focus on having a really well characterized need, and that being the DNA of good innovation, has been fundamental to us. The process of being able to go back and review and validate all your assumptions and things like that, a focus on collaboration, all of these things have been really important for Ventora as we've been able to develop.
Look, given your experience to date, and should circumstances change in the future, do you think the program's giving you the sort of confidence to be involved in another startup, again, if the circumstances present themselves?
Absolutely. It's a repeatable process. And that's the really important part of the teaching, that this BioDesign innovation process isn't just a linear one. It's a circular one that you continue to repeat. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. And that's what we're finding as well.
Thank you, Edwin. Thank you very much. Elise, welcome. Can I bring you in now? And again, ask you to perhaps tell us a little about yourself and how you became involved in the program.
Yeah, so my name's Elise Sutherland and I'm the founder and CEO at Stelect. I did my Masters of Engineering in Business, in Biomedical and Business, at the University of Melbourne, graduating in 2017. So I did the BioDesign program in that final year. I read about the program when I was choosing what final subjects to take, and I thought it was really exciting, something a bit different and really hands-on. I'm definitely a hands-on learner and like going out and actually applying the skills I'm learning, and I thought this course aligned really well with that. And at this stage, there was no really startups forming at the end of in other cohorts, so never really thought of it as an opportunity to go into the startup world. More at the start, it just looked like a great program that I could learn a lot from. Obviously going through the program, my skill set developed really well. And I think, having the business students there, I got to learn the business side of things as well as, the engineering and the technical knowledge that I'd spent my degree in. So I got a really nice coverage of kind of the everyday business decisions and how to apply those. And then kind of coming out of the program, we had a lot of kind of similar to what Ed was saying about Ventora, had a lot of positive feedback and a lot of excitement around what our technology was doing. And so kind of decided to take a chance on running a startup, and that was 3 years ago.
And again, what was the process of determining this unmet need? And tell us a little bit about Stelect. What are you delivering at the moment?
So kind of what David said earlier as well, our unmet need was not one that a clinician told us about. And it wasn't until we really highlighted it to clinicians that they said, oh, yeah, no, that is really an unmet need. And it all started, we were watching a coronary stenting procedure. And for those of you who don't know, the stent is essentially, it's just a metal scaffold that goes in an artery and ensures it stays open and prevents it from collapsing. And so we were watching this procedure. The clinician inserts a first stent. He's then followed up with a second stent and then a third stent, and all in a line. And we kind of thought, that's really odd. These stents are $2,000. It seems a little bit of a waste. That should have been one stent. And we spoke with clinicians after, and really it came down to a lack of imaging and understanding of the size and the requirements of a stent. And the clinician had, using all his expertise, but basically eyeballing it off an X-ray image, what size stent should be implanted, and misjudged it the first time, and therefore had to follow up with two and then a third stent. And unfortunately, when we continually watched these procedures, we saw the same thing happening time and time again. And that was really our need. How can we ensure accurate stent sizing and placement in coronary stenting procedures? So that was kind of our need. And now we really, the company's kind of developed since there. We really focus on the sensor technology space, imaging in any vessel, not just cardiovascular anymore. But really about how do you provide clinicians all the information they need to make informed decisions and trying to take out that guesswork in procedures. And
can you tell us a bit about your team? How many of them sort of come from the engineering side and how many from the business side?
Yeah, so when I did BioDesign, we had 3 engineers and 2 MBA students, and that was a really nice mix. We also had electrical engineers in our cohort. So we had an electrical engineer and 2 biomedical engineers, which worked really well, particularly because we were in the ultrasound imaging space. So it was nice to have that variety of engineering students in the course. And then to have us backed up by some really awesome MBA students that knew what they were doing and were ready to hit the ground running. And, the learning between us, all of the team was so great. And we developed a lot as a team in that first year.
Which part of the program did you find most sort of valuable in terms of, deciding to create the company, but helping you develop the skills to take you where you are now?
I think it's probably 2 parts. The first half of the course is really focusing on finding an unmet need and then doing the business analysis around it to make sure it's a viable market, and all of that. And that set the company up from day one, knowing we had clinician support, knowing it was a real problem we were solving and not building technology that might be cool tech, but it's not solving a problem. I think that was really crucial for us. But I think, a part of it is the whole ecosystem that was put around us. We would not have been able to go onto the startup world without that ecosystem and support from both the university, from their partners, from the introductions we got through the BioDesign program that allowed us to succeed. I still remember David giving me the information about a startup competition towards the middle of the program, said you should apply. And then, that was how we won our first $60,000. And without that money, we probably wouldn't have then kicked on and continued. So I think that ecosystem element is super important. And I think that's why the program has also been highly successful.
And you never intended to, you never saw yourself being involved in the startup, but you are now. It's still early days, but again, do you feel you've got the confidence now to, if the circumstances were there, to repeat, start another venture or be involved in another venture? have you got the confidence to do that? You feel you can make a contribution?
For sure. I think kind of what Ed was saying, I think the BioDesign program sets it up as a really circular model. And so, now that I've done it once, the next time I do it, it's probably even going to be better. And I think it's also, once you kind of get in this startup ecosystem, it's addictive. And, being around people that want to move fast, accelerate ideas, it's really exciting space to work in. Every day is different. And that's kind of why I love what I'm doing now. And I can't ever see myself these days after doing this working for a big corporate company kind of with the same day-to-day job. I think once you've started in this ecosystem, it's hard to leave.
Thank you, Elisa. I appreciate you sharing that information with us. Martin, could we go to you? Martin Thompson, the same question as the other alumni. Introduce yourself, tell us a little about yourself and how you found yourself in the program.
Yeah, thanks, Luan. So my name is Martin Thompson. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Lenexa Medical. So I did the program back in 2017. I'm an electrical engineer by training, so a Master of Electrical Engineering. I was lucky to join the program in a team of 6. Lenexa, there were 3 business students and 3 engineers. And so we went through the process and we found an unmet need for pressure injuries in hospitals. So we're developing our pressure injury prevention device. And of course, at the end of the BioDesign Innovation Program, we spun out, we started our company. For the past few years, we've been working on the product development, filed our patent, etc., which is going to the full international patent in March of next year. So yeah, it's been an excellent journey since BioDesign Innovation.
And again, what was the process by which you discovered your unmet need that's now the venture that you're in?
So David and Michael and Kwang introduced us to some anaesthetists at the Royal Melbourne Hospital. So we worked with them. We were observing their processes, looking for an unmet need. And one of the anaesthetists mentioned to us that pressure injuries was a problem because people are obviously intubated, anaesthetized, and they're laying there for a long period of time. They can get a pressure injury. So we decided to follow that up. We worked with them for the next 6 months, working on developing a solution for surgical patients in the surgery. It was actually a lot more difficult than it sounds to develop a pressure sensing interface to go on top of a table or a mattress. And eventually we pivoted to the ICU and the general wards, but that's how we found our unmet need.
And the composition of your team, how many are from the business side and how many from the engineering?
So at the time there was 3 MBA students and 3 engineers. I'm an electrical engineer. So that was great for me because there were some very technologically significant challenges in developing a stretchable, continuous pressure sensing membrane that's also breathable to go on the table. So we developed a patent off the back of that. The other 2 engineers were 2 biomedical engineers. And of course, working together, I think that was a good mix. It gave us a lot of power. And that's how we got our name, Lenexa, which means 6 lenses, Lenexa. And as we developed the company, there became 3 of us, and now there's 3 of us remaining. There's me as an engineer, also a biomedical engineer, and one of the MBA students remain.
And what elements of the program did you find sort of most valuable in where you are now, in setting you up and where you want to go?
Well, look, the whole program is like a miniature version of what you do and continue to do throughout the whole life of the business, which is excellent. So in terms of what I really liked about the process, about the program, were probably 3 elements. It's the process. The process is extremely important. It's special for the biodesign innovation space for medical devices. It's the experience that was brought to the program. So they brought in a lot of people who had experience in making startups. They had great success with their startups, or they failed with their startups. And those lessons that I learned from that, I still remember today, and I apply that to my business. So that's excellent. And also the connection into the medical space in terms of clinicians, right? Access to hospitals, that's critical. So altogether, it's the process, the access and the experience. And I still use all of the fundamentals today in the way we conduct our business.
And a bit like Elise, have you sort of caught the startup bug in some way? Do you see yourself as, having the commitment, the passion, the contribution to make to a future venture with other people if the opportunity presents itself?
100%. It's a career now. It's very specialized. There's a very particular network and ecosystem of people involved. There's this particular and specialized knowledge, especially for medical devices in the medtech space. So 100%, I'll probably do this for the foreseeable future. It's also very rewarding because, there's some of the, when it comes to medical problems like diseases and things that you can't help, it really gets people's sort of blood going, and you want to help people. So it's very satisfying to be able to help people in need, where currently no one can do anything about it, or it's not sufficiently, the need hasn't been sufficiently addressed. So it's great to be able to give back to everyone, and it's a very satisfying career.
Thank you, Martin, for sharing that with us. And finally, Alex Newton. Hello, welcome. And again, please tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became involved in the program.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess my background's a little bit different to the rest of the panel. I came from the Melbourne Business School side, so from the commercial side of things. Previously, I was an engineer. I worked in the aeronautical and aerospace industry for about 10 years. Decided that I'd like to transition my career into something else, but I didn't know quite what it was. And so it was studying through the Melbourne Business School that I heard about the BioDesign course and thought, yeah, this could be really interesting. This area of technology commercialization and technology translation is something that I was really interested in at the time. So I think the BioDesign course was a natural sort of fit for somebody like me from a technical background, studying the commercial side of things. I think that just had all the right pieces to get me interested in this sort of field.
Tell us about the team that is now Navi, and how you discovered this unmet need that is now your business.
Yeah, so our team consists of 6 co-founders. So we've got 3 MBA graduates, 2 biomedical engineering graduates, and a neonatologist, Dr. Christiane Theta from the Royal Women's Hospital. So I think having a strong team is the sort of foundation for building a startup and for commercializing any sort of research or technology. And certainly I think that's really our strength is the capabilities of our team and really just how well we work together as well. We've been working together since 2016. And so we've been together a little while now, and I think we know how to work well together. And one of the things that I'm most proud about our startup is actually just how well we still continue to work together. And I think that's really something that will position us very well. We looked at a range of areas as well. Similar to some of the other panelists, we looked at different areas of clinical medicine. In the end, I think it came down to we really wanted to work in an area where we had a strong sense of purpose around what we were doing. And I think it didn't take long for us to recognize that sense of purpose when we were in the neonatal intensive care unit. I think, obviously it's a very sort of emotionally charged atmosphere. When there's patients and parents and doctors and nurses all sort of, looking after really sick kids. I do remember that one sort of point where I was thinking, okay, I'm an engineer and I've got a business degree. Surely I can help somehow. And that I think is something that is very important for us. The startup journey is full of highs and lows, and the things that get you through the lows are having a good team and really just getting back to what are we trying to do here? What's the purpose? We're trying to help sick babies, and that really is very valuable.
And your experience is different to the other alumni. So I expect your answer might be different to this question. What did you find most valuable about the program? worked in industry, you've got a business background. What did you learn from the program that you probably didn't know?
Yeah, similar to the sentiments of the other panelists, the process is very strong. Basically, it applies an evidence-based approach to finding problems, coming up with solutions, and then testing the product market fit, or the problem solution fit, and then the product market fit. I think having that process and that systematic way of identifying problems and then working through towards building a business is something that is very, very powerful, because like other people have said, you can apply that to applications outside of medical technologies. Virtually any area would be applicable to that. So certainly the process was very good. The second thing I think that was hugely beneficial to us was actually starting to build our network. So through the guest speakers that came in, we got access to investors or regulatory experts, or people who had been through the journey before, who could act a little bit like mentors. And so building that sort of network around us, even from a very early stage, was very helpful. And that's something that we're very interested in supporting as well. And so we're mentoring a lot of the people in our startup are mentoring earlier stage startups, and so with the hope that we can help them come through as well. So I think the network is very important.
You wanted a career change. This is your first startup. Any chance that you'll in the future might be involved in another one if the opportunity is there? You've obviously seen another side to the business world.
Yeah, certainly. I think we're in this to build a company, not just a product. So I would love to see our company work on second and third and fourth innovations into the future, and we're already starting to put sort of the first steps towards how do we set ourselves up in that way. I think the BioDesign principles really help make that possible, because we've got a structure and a process for how we identify problems and translate those into products. But yeah, I think once you've worked in an area that you feel very passionate about with great people, and if there's the opportunity to make money out of that, why wouldn't you sort of want to replicate that? I think it's a fascinating spot to work.
Thank you, Alex, for again sharing your story. Perhaps just a general question, or a couple of questions I'd like to put to the alumni, and put your hand up if you feel like answering that. But clearly you're at the early stages of your startup venture. You're operating in a challenging industry. Medical devices are a lot of challenges, regulatory, technical, adoption issues. You've had probably some difficult moments, but can you tell us what sort of carries you through those difficult moments, and where do you want to be in 5 years' time? If we come back in 5 years and have this event again, what sort of story do you hope you'll be able to to share with us? Who'd like to take that one first?
I'm happy to jump on that. A little bit like I said before, I think
Thanks.
the things that get you through the difficult times are the people around you, and really coming back to the core purpose of why you started this in the first place. A lot of times you can get distracted by building spreadsheets of revenue modeling and engineering programs of work and things like that. But it's always when I find that when I go back to the hospital and see the patients, it kind of recenters everything and brings everything back into very sharp focus. So certainly that's what keeps us on track. Where I'd like to be in 5 years, we're probably a couple of years from having our first product in market. We're currently at the point where we're doing sort of first in human trial with our medical device at the Royal Women's NICU, which is really exciting. That's one of the biggest milestones that we'll go through in our journey as a startup company. So in 5 years, have the first product in market, probably starting to sell that in multiple markets, and potentially looking at taking that first step on the second product.
Anyone else want to share their thoughts?
Yeah, I think very similar to Alex, I think it's certainly the people that get you through the hard times. And what's been great about BioDesign, and many of us have been through similar accelerators post BioDesign as well, is that we build this kind of community. And so, you know, if I'm facing a problem, I can speak with any one of these startups or different startups and say, hey, I'm stuck here. Did you guys face a similar problem? And we can really leverage each other, because usually most of us have faced similar problems over our life cycle. And so it's great to kind of have a startup community all at similar stages that we can kind of rely on. And I think in 5 years, probably, you know, also similar to Alex in that sense, is that we'd hope that our product would be in the market and would be selling and, you know, seeing the real world impacts or real life impacts of what our technology can do. And I think for me, if we save one life or one heart attack from occurring, that will be worth all this effort. And so that's kind of what I'm really excited about. And that's our goal over the next 5 years.
Thanks, Elise. Anyone else? Go ahead. I want to hear.
I was only going to say the thing that keeps me going is probably the vision of success, right? Because persistence is absolutely important in this sort of environment, because you'll find every week there's something all the time, even every day. So it's the vision of success, in that you can always keep on going, and as long as you do, you'll have that successful Lenexa for your co-founders, for people, for the people the product matters to. In terms of 5 year period, I'd say probably we are very interested in an acquisition or an IPO success for our shareholders, and of course to be on the market. But I'd say we'd hope to achieve that within the next couple of years. And yeah, that's what success looks like for us.
Edward, you want to chip in?
Absolutely. I would like to echo the comments and points from all the panelists. I know personally, as the youngest startup on the panel today, we've relied on Lenexa, Stelect, and Navi at different points. We've turned to the panel members and their team members for assistance and advice and support on multiple occasions. And like them, we'd like to see our product being used and transforming lives within the next 5 years.
Thank you to the alumni. I mean, I think David and Kwang, the thing that impresses me, I think, and I'm sure the attendees, is the focus on, you know, a needs-based approach, evidence, rather than having a gut feeling that someone's going to, you know, buy that, that there is a market for an idea, rather than putting your knowledge together to address a real need. Can you tell us, is the program being evaluated, and you know, what are the next sort of phases for the program? Are you going to continue to build the pipeline and have, you know, more Ventoras and the other startups we've heard about today? Is that the goal of the program, or are you looking to get support from beyond the university, or, you know, is there a BioDesign Mark II which helps these guys get to the next stage? If you can share with us, what's your thinking?
So let me quickly share some thoughts and then leave David to continue. I think we do hope that this will progress, and a couple of things have emerged. One is we do have philanthropic support to see this program being supported at least for the next 3 years, both I think on the business school side and on the engineering side. David will probably have something more specific to share about that on his side. But I think the other aspect is the content and the approach is continually being evolved. So it's not that we're trying to do one big sudden change, but that each year we try to evolve the program to improve it. This year we've had to do a ton of change because of COVID. And one of the opportunities that has presented itself to us is a fantastic list of guests who have been able to join us, because being online, it's opened the doors to a broader set of people who would be able to say yes. But more importantly, I think given the importance of some of the things said by our alumni, that we've managed to onboard as one of our teaching colleagues this year, Simon Wilkins, who directs the TRAM program and is heavily involved with knowledge commercialization Australasia. And so he's able to bring another angle, another perspective that connects the students and the participants to sort of deeper into the ecosystem, but also he's just got a lot of experience downstream into the market with the tram teams and so on. So I think we're constantly evolving, and I believe that in 5 years we would like to not just be around but continue to make a big impact. David, let me leave you. I'm sure you'll have much more exciting things to add.
No, that was great, Kwang. Yeah, so I think Luan, if we had more Ventoras, that would be fantastic. And so I think all the alumni here and some that haven't been here are doing amazing things, and they continue to astound me with what they can achieve. But one of the things that's really stood out for us in this course is that there is no shortage of unmet needs, and each team usually finds between 30 and 200 needs each in each team, across the different areas of medicine. And then some of these are, immediately dismissed as perhaps trivial, or maybe just related to one particular hospital, or maybe even one particular clinician. But there is a real need to meet these needs. And so at the moment, we're really looking to see how we can grow the program. And so this really generous philanthropic report, say from Stephen Ho recently, who's donated very generously to the program, and that funding will be used partly to be more ambitious with the prototyping that we can do, but also have some funding available to help sort of kickstart companies where teams choose to go on and commercialize. I think we'd like to see if we can grow the program, run more teams each year, because I think that there's certainly capacity for that. We might need to get more teachers, otherwise Kwang and I will just completely melt. Yeah, sorry, Luan.
So I was going to say, you mentioned just a huge unmet demand. I guess it raises the question, is there an opportunity to involve existing sort of medical device company or medical technology companies that, again, may be focused on a particular area for good reason, may have the expertise or skills? It strikes me that, again, there are a lot of initiatives around startups, and what impresses me really about this one is that, and no disrespect to other startups, but the technology startups are really hard, okay, and high risk, but high value if you can be a success. And again, we've got terrific engineering skills and know-how. We've got a track record there with Cochlear and ResMed and others. It's a very competitive world, we know that, but I think as the 4 alumni have demonstrated that, if you have the skills, the process, the technique to really determine whether that unmet need has a potential, we're heading in the right direction, I think. So that impresses me about the program. I see scope potentially to, broaden it to grow the pipeline of master's students from both engineering faculty and the business school to be involved. And I think certainly anything the Graeme Clark Institute can do to promote the awareness. I just want to congratulate you and Kwang and your team, for what started out as an idea, David, some years ago. You followed up on that, and you and Kwang and others are now delivering. And also to congratulate the 4 alumni who have, shared their story with us today. I wish you, and your teams every success in the future. You've chosen a hard road, and you know that, but you're passionate, you're committed, and obviously the program has given you the confidence to, continue pursuing what you're doing. So I guess all of us hope that you make a success of it. We look forward to, hearing more about your successes and your first products, and growing your company, both in terms of people and sales and exports. So I want to end this event by thanking David and Kwang and the 4 alumni, Elise, Alex, Martin, and Edward for your time today. And again, please join me in thanking our participants today. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.
Thanks
Thanks,
everyone for
Thanks,
joining
everyone.
us.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.